We now have access to documents that were previously marked confidential in the federal criminal case against Donald Trump in the Southern District of Florida, often referred to as the Mar-a-Lago document case for Trump's willful retention of national defense information, along with his obstruction of justice with co-defendants Walty Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. These documents, previously marked as confidential, are now posted on the public docket after Donald Trump previously filed a motion to dismiss under purported due process grounds, a completely frivolous motion to dismiss filed by Donald Trump before Judge Eileen Cannon, so who knows what in the world she will do. But one of Donald Trump's tactics is to try to file these frivolous motions in order to make certain documents public on the public docket. Now, a lot of these documents that are now public are very damaging to Donald Trump when you actually read the documents. But you see, Donald Trump believes, and he's probably right in this, that his MAGA supporters are not going to read anything. They are simply going to believe whatever the right-wing media narrative is. And the right-wing media narrative being pushed right now is that the FBI authorized use of lethal force against Donald Trump in connection with the search warrant executed on Mar-a-Lago in August of 2022, when in fact what Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are pointing to is just a standard use of force protocol that exists in all search warrants. So I think that's why Donald Trump wanted to file this due process motion to dismiss, because he wanted to launder this disinformation, which now Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the right-wing media and Fox are pushing. Oh, the FBI was trying to assassinate Donald Trump. Look, we've actually read the documents. You'll, first and foremost, if you know anything about the law and you actually study it, you'll know this is standard protocol. It's quite literally a form that is used in all like search warrant returns and in all kind of search warrant filings like this. It's been in place since 2000, this policy. If you actually read, though, as it relates to what went down in Mar-a-Lago, you'll see that the FBI search warrant was coordinated with the Secret Service. They made sure that Donald Trump wasn't even there at all when the search took place, and it was done in a very kind of a methodical way, making sure Donald Trump wasn't there when it took place. The Secret Service was tipped off and was aware of what was going down. And so all of this right-wing disinformation is absolutely relentless, and they're pushing it down. And what they're trying to also avoid is us all focusing on what's really at issue in these documents that were released. Like, for example, we now have access to photographs in connection with the search warrant executed on Mar-a-Lago that show Walty Nauta moving the boxes in June of 2022, after a May subpoena was issued to Donald Trump and the Trump Organization and to those at Mar-a-Lago for the return of the classified information after Donald Trump repeatedly refused to turn over the classified information, the sensitive information, the war plans, our nuclear secrets, and Trump continued to lie and either claim it was turned over or refuse to comply. We literally see, look, you could see Walty Nauta in the surveillance footage that the DOJ has moving the boxes to try to hide and conceal it. Some of the other documents that were released was a March 2023 order by the Washington, D.C. presiding judge of criminal grand juries. At the time, her name was Federal Judge Beryl Howell. You'll recall that we reported a lot on her there. And in her order, she made some, very powerful findings against Donald Trump and the crimes that he committed, the crimes that were sufficiently established such that Trump's lawyers couldn't assert a attorney-client privilege or work product privilege because a crime fraud exception applied. Here we have an 89-page order from Judge Beryl Howell from March 2023 denying Trump's and Trump's lawyers' claim of attorney-client privilege on the basis of the crime fraud exception. Here's what Judge Beryl Howell ruled. The government has sufficiently demonstrated all three elements of this obstruction statute by providing evidence that the former president intentionally concealed the existence of additional documents bearing classification markings, knowing that such deception would result in providing unknowingly false representation to the government. As a result, the former president's actions were intended to impede the FBI's investigation of his unlawful retention of classified documents, establishing a prima facie violation of Section 1519, which is the obstruction statute. Also, we learned from these documents that were now made public, if we actually, care about facts and information, that even after the search warrant was executed on Mar-a-Lago in August of 2022, Donald Trump still had classified information and classified documents in his bedroom and in other locations, about 6 other additional classified documents that were found. Here's what is stated. Notably, no excuse is provided as to how the former president can miss the classified marked documents found in his own bedroom at Mar-a-Lago. Instead, the government has provided evidence to demonstrate the full arc of criminal violations already concluded more than 6 months before the search of Mar-a-Lago, when the evidence demonstrates that the former president intentionally failed to provide all of the classified information in his possession to the government with the June 3rd, 2023 certification. So 6 additional classified documents Donald Trump's lawyer had to then turn over to the Department of Justice back in 2022 after the search. Remarkably, the report regarding the Mar-a-Lago search conducted on December 15, 16, 2023 uncovered 4 more responsive records. 4 responsive records found at Mar-a-Lago on December 15 to 16, 2022. The certification misleadingly refers to these documents as, this is what Judge Beryl Howell was saying, low-level ministerial documents without any explicit mention whether they had classification markings, indicating only that one document includes an explanation that it was no longer deemed classified if not connected to the attachment, and this document had no attachment. To be clear, the 4 documents were responsive to the May 2022 subpoena. On or about December 15, 2022, the former president's counsel informed the government that a box containing 4 documents or partial documents totaling 6 pages with classification markings were found in a closet of the office designated space at Mar-a-Lago, and those documents contain markings of the secret level. The office provided the entire box in which the 4 responsive records were located to the FBI on approximately January 5th, 2023. So 6 more pages were turned over after the search was done in August of 2022 on January 5th, 2023. That was still not the end of the production of responsive records. In complying with the subpoena to produce that box, the office also provided the FBI with 2 additional documents responsive to the May 2022 subpoena, one empty folder and another mostly empty folder marked classified evening summary that were found in the former president's bedroom. Then Judge Beryl Howell, back on March of 2023, reached the following conclusion. Based on the foregoing analysis, the crime fraud exception entirely vitiates the attorney-client and work product privilege that has invoked to withhold testimony regarding the 6 topics identified by the government. The exception vitiates any privilege intended to be invoked by the former president as to redacted who the person is on the first 5 topics. Further, 58 of the documents over which so-and-so has claimed privilege have been pierced by the crime fraud exception. If you take a look at the law enforcement operations order regarding the search warrant, now this is the part that MAGA world is talking about, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. If you go and look at the list where it says law enforcement operations, overall plan and summary, like let's just take a look at what the plan and summary was in connection with the search warrant that was executed. It says the DOJ and FBI will contact the former president's retained counsel to notify him of the search warrant and request collaboration and assistance. After a reasonable time period, the FBI will execute the search warrant with the case team and the filter team and a Mar-a-Lago representative with United States Secret Service. The execution will require coordination with the United States Secret Service and may include coordination with Mar-a-Lago guest services to ensure a fulsome understanding of the spaces occupied as designated in the search warrant. And then it goes through the processes of what's going down and when it's going down. And then it just has the standard policy for the use of deadly force, which is a standard policy relating to all search warrants. That is what Donald Trump and his team is now kind of seizing on. Here's Christina Bobb, who's made her photo on Twitter, now X, her mugshot that was just taken in Arizona. She goes, "What the F? They were all prepared to kill me. A few dozen FBI agents versus me. They were ready to kill me. What in the world happened to the United States of America?" And then they're citing the New York Post, who goes, "FBI was authorized to use deadly force in classified documents case." As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, she was there. All they did was ask her to stand outside. If they wanted to kill Looney Tunes here, they would have. They did nothing. There's actually a rare statement that was issued by the FBI because of all the disinformation being put out by MAGA. FBI issues rare statement directly responding to this attack from Trump and his allies. Says standard protocol was followed. No one ordered additional steps to be taken, and there was no departure from the norm in this matter. Quote, "The FBI followed standard protocol in the search, as we do for all search warrants, which includes a standard policy statement limiting the use of deadly force. No one ordered additional steps to be taken, and there was no departure from the norm in this matter." But MAGA Republicans won't let the truth get in the way of their lie. Marjorie Taylor Greene's now saying, "I made sure that he knew," referring to Donald Trump, "the Biden DOJ and FBI were planning to assassinate President Trump and gave the green light. Does everyone get it yet? What are Republicans going to do about it? I tried to oust our speaker who funded Biden's DOJ and FBI, but Democrats stopped it." And here Trump goes, "Wow, I just came out of the Biden witch hunt trial in Manhattan, the icebox, and was shown reports that crooked Joe Biden's DOJ and their illegal and unconstitutional raid of Mar-a-Lago authorized the FBI to use deadly lethal force. Now we know for sure that Joe Biden is a serious threat to democracy. He is mentally unfit to hold office. 25th Amendment, exclamation point." As reporter Brianna Morello says, "I did some digging into the deadly force verbiage that was used in court documents regarding Trump's classified documents case. Since 2000, every FBI operation plan has had a deadly force policy section pre-filled in. All federal agents are authorized to use deadly force in accordance with its policy. I'm told this is nothing unique, and it is pretty standard." As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski writes, Trump, the crazies, and the monetized clickbaiters are hyperventilating over the standard search warrant language that they claim meant the DOJ FBI planned to assassinate Trump, except they knew that Trump and Secret Service weren't there. But don't let me interrupt the crazy. Sarah Isger says, anytime the FBI takes an adversarial action, like executing a search warrant, there is a deadly force policy. If there is danger to you or the public and there's no alternative, you are authorized to use deadly force. This is standard policy. As John Goldberg from the Dispatch writes about Marjorie Taylor Greene's post, this is wildly irresponsible, even for professional trolls like Marjorie Taylor Greene. FBI knew that Trump wasn't there. It was all coordinated with the Secret Service in advance. This is deeply dangerous BS. And so when you look at this document, you go, well, why would Trump want this released with all of this damaging information about the obstruction, showing Walty now to taking the boxes? Why would Donald Trump file this due process frivolous motion that would go nowhere? And even if it was granted by Donald Trump's judge of choice, Donald Trump's appointed Judge Eileen Cannon, even if she granted the motion, it would get overturned by the 11th Circuit. Trump wanted that document out to coordinate Biden's a threat, he's trying to kill me, so that they could play the victim and whine about it. Always the victim, always lies. Perpetual victims, perpetual whiners. That's who they are with everything that they do.
It is Wednesday, the 22nd of May of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests? And there's a plural there, unlike the original movie Beckett, in which it was only one. And you know which priests they were talking about. And who were they? Yeah, Peter O'Toole. He was the king, just so you know. Okay, and Richard Burton was Beckett, because we need to keep our film history straight. Okay, we take a little poetic license. That's why we pluralized priest, because there's a lots more of them where they come from. Yeah, there are. And they come in many guises, don't they? Yes, they do. Well, how are you on this fine Wednesday? Another day. And how much more whining can Trump put into a 24-hour period? How much? Is there a record keeping on that? Because I got to tell you, I'd hate to be the person tasked with that task. Yeah, tally it up. You. Anyway, I read that 3 out of 5 Americans. Now, of course, polls are dubious. I want to know what Americans and who the Americans and where they were in this poll, because it sounds to me like they might have been in one of those Trump diners that everybody goes to poll. They don't go anywhere else. Anyway, ostensibly, 3 out of 5 Americans believe that we are being hit with massive inflation, and at the same time, we're in a recession. And Joe Biden is at fault. And yet, the stock market, for the first time in the history of the stock market, went over 400,000 or whatever, 4,000, whatever it was. 40,000, I think that's what it was. Yeah, 40. Anyway, who keeps track of that stuff? They're all astronomical numbers anyway. So, some ungodly record that has never been achieved by the stock market, which is indicative of the economy just booming. But 3 out of 5 people, Americans, believe, according to this poll, that the U.S. economy is going to hell in a handbasket. And probably because this record that the stock market achieved got 1 day of news, if that. And if you go to the MAGA online forums, they don't believe anything the government puts out anyway. They only believe whatever it is in their little bubble. Inflation is at 20%. It doesn't matter what the facts are. You can show them any number of actuary tables that show that inflation at worst right now at this very second is 3.7% in the last 12 months. Not 20%. Where did they come up with this stuff? We know where. They believe Joe Biden is at fault. You know, it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't throw this orange crook in our face all the time and just laugh at us. We're getting away with being fascist Nazi goose-steppers, and we're using this guy. You guys are so fucked. We elected the black guy twice, and now we have to put up with this. You go to the MAGA online forums, their presence. The only reason they are the way they are, they will admit, is because we elected the black guy twice, and therefore we cannot be trusted to govern because we elected that black guy twice. Our betters have determined that we children need a little correction. And sometimes Daddy doesn't like the votes. He's got the switch, though. And this Daddy is going to make us cut our own switch that we get to get beat with. How do you like them apples? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I just want to remind folks, the founders have warned us about moneyed interests having no national allegiance except to their own self-interest. And they would do exactly what they're doing right now. We were warned. And whenever we brought it up, we were told, oh, you're a bunch of overbearing hippies. You're trying to make everybody get lovey-dovey. That's not the way the world is. No shit, Sherlock. You were an example of how the world is not lovey-dovey, because look how hateful you are. I had a youngin'. I like to call him Nazi youngin'. This guy actually happened to be a real surf Nazi around the Huntington Beach area. Jesus H. Christ. It was bad in the day. Wow. They're goose-stepping all over the place. Well, this guy is totally against anything LGBTQ. The vaccination is, all, government plot of the deep state to, I don't know, keep us well. And they don't want that. He has all the answers on how Fauci is this and Fauci is that. They want to string the guy up. Well, while this guy is catching the little, shore break right there, right on the shore on his little tiny boogie board, and he's boogieing it all around. I know, it's really a surfboard, but they're only about 5'6". Might as well be a boogie board. Those aren't surfboards. Those are chips of nothing. Cut back and forth, cut back and forth, cut back and forth. Oh, look how good I am as a surfer. Carry a goddamn 12-foot board. Okay, 8 feet. They had 12-footers. Those were heavy mofos. Carry that out there and catch a real wave. You little goose-stepping Nazi youngin'. Well, anyway, I had to block this mofo. He went after at V-Box. Know her? She was kind of mourning her wife's demise from a while ago of cancer, and just posted, I miss this time of year because my wife is now dead. And this little Nazi youngin got in her timeline and said, do you ever wonder what it would be like if you had actually gotten married and had children? Actually married to a man. How dare that little... God, I hate these people. I'm not even sure it's a real person, to be honest with you. Okay, I mean, went into it, but low follow numbers could just as easily be a troll bot or a useful idiot. Either way, useful idiot is still a troll bot in my book. So, yeah, I had to engage the guy by saying, yeah, I sometimes wonder what life would be different if hundreds, and I'm serious, when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds of my friends were alive today who were not sent to their demise because of a crazy-ass homophobic policy that blamed them for getting a disease. Well, they deserve to die anyway. They're faggots. That's pretty much the government policy, and that's how they put it. Should faggots be allowed to live? Should we make a concerted effort in our scientific community to save the faggot? So now we got these little goose-stepping Nazi surf punk Nazi youngins lying about Fauci, who I met. You could not go to a cocktail party in the Bay Area without rubbing elbows with people from UC Berkeley and everywhere coming to try to figure out what the hell was going on. It wasn't just Fauci in this effort. There was any number of people that I knew on a personal level as neighbors who were involved in this effort, who are fairly well renowned because of it. Let alone being on the beginnings of Project Open Hand. What was that? Oh, that was delivering food and medicine to people who were bedridden because of AIDS and, yeah. Close friends who passed because of this, and none of us really knew what the hell was going on. Then when we found out a little bit, yeah, it was tainted in a little racial component too. It came out of Africa. Really? So it just bugged me that this little boogie board surf punk Nazi it just lies. So I blocked him. You can't engage those types any further and give them any more of a platform than what you already gave them. Okay. So that was, I don't know, exciting, I suppose. A little bit different than going to the usual Nazi suspects on the Rogue River Facebook page. Do I call them Nazis because I'm being hyperbolic? I don't know. They like Trump. No telling what they're willing to do. I have an idea. Some of them have been, if not are currently Proud Boys, and we know how they like to brawl. My only regret is that if this was going to happen, why couldn't it have happened when I was like in my prime physicality? Why does it have to be on the back end of, at least, if not the beginnings, well into the deterioration stages of life? Jeez. Sure hope I don't fall and break a hip. Well, I guess those days are coming, huh? Actually, I feel pretty good. I've been doing some actual physical work, which is usually beyond my my thresholds. We'll see when I have to start digging into hard ground because my legs suck for digging. Ugh. between my ankles and my knees, which I've had surgeries on, by the way, it's kind of hard to dig. So if you try to just push it, with your arms and whatnot, well, I've got shoulder issues too. Like I said, if I'm not in the beginning, I'm pretty well on to the deterioration stage. But I've gotten quite a bit of work done around here that I was unable to do or hesitant to do because I didn't want to be too far away from Mom where, she'd be out of earshot. And property's big enough that if I'm off in the furthest reaches of the property, I might not be able to hear her all the way in her bedroom. So I would do a little bit and come and check, and I got backed up a little bit on the outside of the house, but it's starting to look pretty good again. And it takes some physical effort because I'll be damned if I hire a kid to do this kind of stuff. I can do it. Knock down a few weeds. Got to dig out another. God, we have this plant called poke lettuce. It is a dinosaur plant. It's a plant from the dinosaur ages. It will not die. The tiniest little bit of root that you happen to leave there will grow an even stronger plant. They hate us. Then they go to fruit, and then the birds pass the fruit around, then you got this stuff poking up all over the place. Some people would eat it. Oh, yeah, well, we'll just eat this. It's a little astringent, too. Not my cup of tea. So I saw some in a spot that I really didn't want to see it. And I guess I'm going to have to start hacking away and try to dig a deep enough hole and try to get as much of this stuff out. It'll grow under the road. Jeez, I hate this plant. I guess there's a way of, putting some sort of compound into it. I hope. I'm not quite willing to put things that are going to get into the watershed as if the watershed would be damaged any more than it already has because of the idiots around here who care not one whit about what they're putting on their property that then leaches into the watershed. I think we're going to get to the point at some point that we're going to be like that South Pacific island that we heard about way back in the day. Did you hear about this? Well, we did. Where they didn't correlate the act of sex and then 9 months later having a baby. Those were two independent things that had nothing to do with each other in the construct of the society. And I always took that as like, well, I suppose the scientific method isn't used very much there. I guess not. And we may be getting to that point where institutional knowledge will be so bereft that people won't, correlate 1 + 1 = 3 at some point. Okay, enough of those metaphysical questions about anthropology. Yeah, field study this. All right, what do we have in store for you here in the curated part of the show? Well, as we begin in the Bistro Cafe, a Hawaii court ordered drug companies to pay the state a combined $916 million in the Plavix blood thinner lawsuit. Apparently, certain populations, it doesn't work. Wow, that's not good. A Texas petrochemical company has pleaded guilty to a violation of the Clean Water or Clean Air Act and agreed to pay more than $30 million in connection with 2 explosions near Houston. And the Massachusetts Senate is weighing a tuition-free community college plan. Remember those days? I do. After the break, we move to the chef's table where a man charged with helping the Hong Kong intelligence service in the UK has been found dead. Conveniently dead, apparently. And politically motivated crimes in Germany reached their highest level in 2023. since tracking began more than 20 years ago. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Well, we are going to tuck right into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy on this fabulous Smothered Benedict Wednesdays, and it is by Audrey McAvoy out of the Associated Press. A Hawaii court has ordered the manufacturers and distributors of the blood thinner Plavix to pay the state a combined $916 million after finding the companies failed to disclose the efficacy and safety of the medication, the state attorney general said yesterday, Tuesday. The judgment was issued against Bristol-Myers Squibb and 3 U.S.-based subsidiaries of the French pharmaceutical company Sanofi. Bristol-Myers Squibb and Sanofi said in a joint statement they disagreed with the penalty and plan to appeal because what would you expect them to say? First Circuit Court Judge James Ashford found that there was a risk that about 30% of patients, particularly non-Caucasians, might have a diminished response to Plavix, but the companies did not update their label, Attorney General Ann Lopez said. As Judge Ashford found following a trial, these pharmaceutical defendants acted in bad faith and marketed a product that could potentially have devastating effects on Hawaii patients when they knew that the medicine would lack efficacy for a substantial portion of the population, Lopez said in a statement. Hawaii filed a lawsuit in 2014 saying more than 1 million Plavix prescriptions had been issued in the island since 1998 when the drug was first marketed. Hawaii is the 5th state to file a lawsuit claiming unfair and deceptive marketing of Plavix after Louisiana, Mississippi, West Virginia, and California. Hard-working staff at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A Texas petrochemical company has pleaded guilty to a violation of the Clean Air Act and agreed to pay more than $30 million in connection with 2 explosions that injured workers and caused the evacuation of thousands. The explosions at a TPC group plant in the coastal city of Port Neches the day before Thanksgiving of 2019 prompted the evacuation of more than 50,000 people, that's 50,000 people, from the area about 100 miles from Houston. Those explosions released more than 11 million pounds of extremely hazardous substances and caused more than 130 million in off-site property damage and other impacts in human health and the environment, according to a news release from the DOJ. TPC Group sincerely regrets the damage and disruption caused by the November 2019 incident at our Port Neches facility, the company said in a statement on Tuesday yesterday. Since the event, TPC Group has cooperated fully with all federal, state, and local investigations. So, sounds like the government wanted more, but they got this little mea culpa, and I say little. The company entered into a plea agreement with the government on Monday and agreed to pay over $30 million in criminal fines and civil penalties. The plan also includes spending about $80 million to improve its risk management program and improve safety issues at TPC's group's Port Neches and Houston facilities. Well, the only reason they're in Texas is so that they don't have to have all this terrible government oversight. Today's guilty plea shows that businesses that choose to place profits over safeguards and legal compliance will face serious consequences. U.S. Attorney Damian M. Diggs for the Eastern District of Texas said in a statement. Steve LeBlanc of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. A plan to create tuition-free universal community college for all Massachusetts residents was up for discussion yesterday, Tuesday, as the state Senate launched debate on its proposed $57.9 billion budget for the new fiscal year. Supporters, including Democratic Senate President Karen Spilka, say the plan, dubbed Mass Educate, is aimed at increasing the state's workforce while expanding opportunities for students across the state. The proposal would set aside $75.5 million in new spending to cover tuition and fees and offer a stipend of up to $1,200 for books and supplies and other costs to students who make 125% or less of the median income in the state. The Senate plan included in its fiscal year 2025 budget would continue to invest in programs created in the current year budget, including $18 million in free nursing programs at community colleges and $24 million in free community college for residents over 25. But that is far from certain. The Massachusetts House, which has already approved its version of the state budget, did not include the proposal. Senate leaders will have to negotiate with the Democratic-led House to try to get the plan in the final version of the spending plan they ultimately send to Democratic Governor Maura Healey. Well, that brings us to our break, and when we get back from that break, and it will be a little shorter than usual, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, The Setup. With a studio change, Fox to Disney, a new director, Wes Ball from Maze Runner, and no more Andy Serkis in the lead, there were questions as to how Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes would stand up, especially given just how good the previous trilogy was. The short answer is pretty well. The action here picks up 300 years after the death of the revered Caesar, with clans of primates eking out somewhat satisfying lives amidst the ruins of the former human civilization. A young ape, Noah, lives with a clan that raises eagles for hunting and defensive purposes, but when returning home from an egg hunt, finds his village being destroyed, his father dead, and its inhabitants being kidnapped by the evil Proximus Caesar, a leader who it turns out has perverted the name and legend of Caesar for his own purposes. How unheard of. Most of the movie is a coming-of-age road trip where the young Noah encounters the wise orangutan Raka, who imparts the real teachings of Caesar, May, an echo, term here for humans, who's retained the power of speech, and has a mission at the facility where Proximus has set up shop, as well as Trevathan, a wonderful William H. Macy, a prisoner and human advisor to Proximus. The set design is evocative of the History Channel's Life After Humans, and AI's impact on motion capture can already be seen. Owen Teague, Noah's character, carries this one, but in a far different way than Serkis's Caesar. Noah is growing and incorporating spirituality and proto-political ideas into a character to come. In Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we find apes repeating human mistakes, and humans, without spoilers, still human and not as done as we might have thought they were. Thus, the setup for next time. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Yesterday, we reported on attempts by anti-voter legislators in Arizona to make it harder to get citizen ballot initiatives on the ballot and a higher threshold to pass one. Another suppression tactic by opponents? Slap signature canvassers with a subpoena. Recruiting and training a legion of canvassers to put a measure on the ballot is already an expensive proposition. As we noted yesterday, should the Arizona Distribution Requirement for Initiatives Amendment pass in November, signatures would be required from all 30 legislative districts in Arizona, meaning more volunteers and more expense. Bolts Magazine reports on another tactic: take the ballot question organizers to court. Opponents hope that by challenging the question's text, signature collection methods, and eligibility of canvassers, it can either invalidate signatures or make it financially unfeasible to continue. A recent Arizona law allows opponents to subpoena canvassers to defend their petitions, and if they don't appear, the signatures can be tossed out. Bolts Magazine chronicles a 2018 climate ballot question that had 1,400 canvassers subpoenaed, and organizers spent $1.3 million transporting and housing canvassers, most of whom never even testified. Expect more such tactics as anti-voter legislators try to keep power out of the hands of citizens. We've linked the Bolts Magazine article at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. That was the day known as the Battle of Deputies Run. The Minneapolis Teamster strike was in full swing. For 3 days, the city was peacefully paralyzed. The wealthiest had kept the city an open shop for decades through their Citizen Alliance, and now assembled an army of strikebreakers. Strikers had been seriously injured on Saturday the 19th at the city market. They fought police and deputized specials in an attempt to keep produce produce trucks from moving out. Later that evening, flying pickets were ambushed in Tribune Alley after having been dispatched by an agent provocateur. Strikers were beaten mercilessly, including several of the women's auxiliary. The sight of bloodied women enraged the strikers. Another fierce confrontation was inevitable. Hundreds of strikers waited at the Central Labor Union near the market until Monday, when scab trucks were expected. Fighting continued throughout the morning. No trucks moved. Hundreds of women marched to the mayor's office demanding, "Take your hired thugs away." Anti-union violence so outraged building tradesmen that 35,000 walked off the job in sympathy. Electricians, painters, and iron workers all reported to strike headquarters. Then, on this day, that Tuesday, the decisive battle began. Tens of thousands amassed in the market on the side of the Teamsters, as deputies would attempt to move the produce trucks out. Strike leader Farrell Dobbs noted it became a free-for-all. The police stayed back as strikers and deputies battled it out until finally the deputies dropped their clubs, turned tail, and fled. Union forces cleared the market of every last scab, cop, and deputy. Historian Brian Palmer notes an intense and deadly confrontation was over in short order, and it left the Union in command. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 58 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs around 68 to 70, so a bit cooler than what we've had in days previous. Some clouds this morning will give way to generally sunny skies in the afternoon, with winds picking up out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Clear to partly cloudy overnight with lows in the upper 30s, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and of course, now they've issued a freeze warning between 3 a.m. local time until 8 a.m. Hopefully that's at altitude above us. But I'm not taking any chances. I'm getting all my potted veggies and fruit trees into the greenhouse. And hopefully the old fruit trees, like my old pear tree, I hope it doesn't suffer too badly. We'll see. Sunshine tomorrow, along with some cloudy intervals, highs in the mid to upper 70s, with no freeze warning, thankfully. Winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated very high here in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 20 parts per million, and that daytime UV index also remains very high at level 8, so take care. Barometric pressure is rising at 30.07 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 68%. Feels more than that. We did get a spot of rain overnight last night, too. Not measurable, though. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is registering 58 degrees with light rain. Paris is 68 and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Rome is 73 and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Kabul is 71 and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 76 and clear. Tokyo is 67 and mostly cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 55 degrees and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 58 and fair. Chicago, Illinois is 68 and fair. And New York, New York is 77 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. A man accused of assisting Hong Kong authorities to gather intelligence in the United Kingdom was found dead in a park over the weekend, and the prosecutor said he had attempted suicide after he was charged. Matthew Trickett, age 37, was found dead in a park in Maidenhead, west of London, on Sunday afternoon. They termed the death unexplained, the police said, who are investigating. Trickett, age 37, once again, was one of the 3 men charged earlier this month with agreeing to engage in information gathering, surveillance, and other acts of deception that were likely to materially assist the Hong Kong Intelligence Service from late 2023 to May 2nd. Prosecutors also allege that the men forced entry into a UK residential address on May 1st. At a hearing last week, Prosecutor Kashif Malik had asked that Trickett be held in custody for his own welfare because he attempted suicide after he was charged. The 3 defendants were bailed out and due to appear on Friday at London Central Criminal Court. No one has entered a plea. British media said Trickett was formerly a Royal Marine who recently worked as a Home Office immigration enforcement officer. He was also reportedly the director of a security consultancy. He was charged along with Shi Luang Peter Wei, age 38, and Chung Bian Yuan, age 63. The men appeared at a brief court hearing to confirm their identities on May 13th. Hong Kong authorities have confirmed that Yuan was the office manager of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in London. Of the Associated Press World Desk brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Politically motivated crime in Germany last year reached its highest level since the government started tracking it more than 20 years ago, with the greatest threat coming from people with far-right motivations, the country's top security official said. Overall, Germany registered 60,028 politically motivated crimes in 2023. The government considers numerous acts as political, including intent to hinder democracy and crimes aimed at members of certain ethnic, religious, or other groups. right-wing politically motivated crimes increased by 23% in 2023 to 28,945 cases, of which 1,270 were violent. The threat of political violence in the European Union was clear last week when the Prime Minister of Slovakia was shot in what the government called an assassination attempt. Many politicians in Slovakia blame the heated political division there for creating the environment that led to the shooting. Police in Germany also have recorded a drastic increase in crimes designated as anti-Semitic to the highest level since tracking began. They nearly doubled last year to 5,164. The police said the increase is related to reactions to the Israel-Hamas war. Indeed. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.